Hello and welcome to our penetration testing course. The purpose of this is to go through the tools, methodologies, and resources that a penetration tester might use in their engagements with clients. We'll talk about how to set up your attack system, how to gather information about your client and their network and systems. We'll talk about exploiting those systems, and then steps you should be taking post-exploitation. My name is Chris. You can follow me on Twitter at ChrisLG. I have an MBA, which means I do have some understanding of the businesses, their risk and thought processes, and why a penetration test is important to them. But my undergrad is in computer science, so rest assured I am a nerd. I've got a fair number of certifications, and I'm a member of the GIAC Advisory Board. So initially we'll go through kind of an introduction to pen testing, starting out with what it is and, more importantly, what pen testing is not. We'll talk reporting, both written and oral, and how you can build value for your clients in doing a good job with those reports. We'll cover a section we call kind of a glossary, and that's just to kind of hit some basic terms and concepts that you need to be familiar with going forward in this course. And these are above and beyond the knowledge you're already expected to have coming in as prerequisites in terms of operating system use and basic networking functions. In the intro, we'll also cover legal considerations that you need to give some thought to. Going forward, we'll talk about setting up, whether you're setting up your Windows attack box, your Kali Linux VM, or even your Mac OS X platform. Note that when it comes to setting up Kali Linux, that's actually covered in the Mac OS X modules. We'll also talk about pulling down Metasploitable 2 and other vulnerable systems from vulnhub.com so you can get some practice in a safe environment. We'll discuss cloud services like Amazon and Google's cloud services and what use those can be to penetration testers. We'll talk about note-taking because you will be processing a lot of information from scan outputs to harvested credentials, and if you can't keep them straight, it's going to be really hard to produce a valuable report to your client at the far end of the test. We'll also show how to set up TFTP, FTP, and web services so that you can call back to your attack box from the victim machines. As we go into passive information gathering, we'll dive into tools like Shodan.io. We'll talk about what you can glean from the client's web presence and some different tricks you can use with Google to find out information that your client probably doesn't realize they're giving away on the public web. We'll go into a little bit as well about personnel searches so that you can maybe figure out who's working for the company so you can set up your target list of phish victims, or maybe even get extra information about a particular employee so you can do a better job at guessing their credentials. As we roll into active information gathering, where your machine is connecting directly to their systems, we'll look at a tool called Cool that'll help you basically scrape their entire website for information. We'll do scanning of ports with Nmap and the Nmap scripting engine. And we'll use some purpose-built scanners like Nikto and OpenVAS to search quickly for vulnerabilities on their systems. We'll go through Dirbuster and a command line equivalent that helps enumerate the folders and files available on a web server. We'll look at the scans available to us in Metasploit. We'll talk banner grabbing using a tool NCAT, which is part of the Nmap suite. And we'll also go through DNS and SMB enumeration. Rolling into exploitation, we'll talk about the exploit database, the command line tool searchsploit, and searches within Metasploit. We'll also talk about using exploits and payloads within Metasploit in your testing. We'll go into MSF Venom and how you can, with a single command line command, build your own attack with MSF Venom. We'll also use Burp Suite and OWASP Zap to do some web application pen testing. We'll talk SQL injection and NoSQL injection attacks. We'll go through a tool called Pret that basically targets printers on your client's network as pivot points, and more generally GitHub and pulling different tools and resources from GitHub for your use. We'll go through local file inclusion and remote file inclusion vulnerabilities. We'll talk about how to evade your client's antivirus. We'll talk about different kinds of bind and reverse shells. We'll go through password spraying with a tool called potato.py, a really handy Python script. And we'll go through the venerable buffer overflows. We'll hit social engineering a bit as well, talking specifically about what phishing is, broadly some methodologies you can use to do phishing, and as well some tools that are built right into Kali that will help you do those good phishing engagements. Post-exploitation, once you get some foothold in their network, we'll walk you through how to find basically the Windows environment, what it's set up like, how you can maybe escalate privileges or pivot from a machine, and the same for Linux. We'll use Mimikatz to pull plain text credentials out of memory on Windows, and we'll pull password hashes out of Windows and Linux systems and go through how to crack some of those. We'll discuss specific methods for pivoting from one victim machine to another. And we'll talk about how to establish persistence so that your hooks stay in the system when a process dies or even after a machine is rebooted. And then we'll hit just a few other extra techniques. Wireshark is a great tool that you need to have a good handle on, and its kind of command line cousin, TCPDump. We'll also go through a few purpose-built pen testing hardware items that can be really handy in any physical pen test and are just plain a lot of fun to use. And we'll wrap it all up with a block on keeping current. There are some podcasts that you ought to be listening to, some social media accounts that you should be following, and some certifications that you should be aspiring to get as a penetration tester. The field changes constantly, and it is so deep and so broad that the moment you stop learning, you're going to fall behind. So with that, we'll dive into the course, and we hope you have fun with it.